So onboarding, let's talk about it. So for us, the onboarding process begins once the sales process ends. And so for time capital bookkeeping, that means the client has signed an engagement letter with us. They have also paid our onboarding invoice. So we have a separate, we have a separate line item within our proposals. We call it a game plan and pricing for onboarding. And then we have, of course, a separate one for setup, cleanup, ongoing support, so on and so forth. So we do charge a fee for onboarding. For us, it's a 2-week process, and it fills that gap between the end of the sales process and the beginning of the setup process. So within our firm, we have cleanup specialists who handle the setups for all clients and the cleanups for all clients. And so we're going, from the sales process through the onboarding process and then handing the client over to our cleanup specialist to begin their QuickBooks Online setup, or, whatever that looks like for the specific client. And so I really just want to walk through our current onboarding process. Every time I personally conduct an onboarding of a new client, our onboarding process changes a little. It gets a little better each time we do it, right? With every process, that's the case. And so I'm not sharing my screen. We keep up with this within Asana currently. We may keep up with it in a software called Keeper eventually, but for now it's held in our Asana, which is currently our operations management software. And so I'm not showing it line by line because it's a lot to look at, and your process is also going to be different. This is a very flexible process. I will go over some things that we need to do within this process, like collecting information and documentation from this new client that you just received, this new real estate investing client you just received. That is the bulk of this process, right? Of course, we need to get access to things. We maybe even need to create them a QuickBooks Online account or whatever software that they and or you want to use to serve them. We need to create an account for them and do some other things, right? Get access to different platforms that they're a part of, maybe get viewer-only access to their financial accounts, things like that. And we'll go over that within our onboarding checklist. But this is our overall process, just an overview of it. And so, we have a template onboarding email that we send the client, and it contains links to their shared file or their portal. And, it contains some Loom videos showing them how to do a couple of things that we need them to do, such as linking their financial accounts to their QuickBooks Online bank feed. We have a video showing them how to do that, so hopefully they can do that. We include a 45-minute call within our onboarding process. We can have multiple calls if needed, but usually one does the trick. We have a very concise checklist, very clear checklist and set of instructions that we need them to accomplish over a 2-week span. We follow up every 2 days until they've given us 100% of the items and or the information that we need from them. So it's a very quick pace process. 2 weeks goes by in a flash. And so you will want to have frequent follow-ups with them to ensure they're getting you what you need to be able to start on their bookkeeping, at the time that you promised you were going to start, right? If we don't have 100% of the items that we request, we will not allow their account to move forward into our setup and cleanup process, which is another phase, right? So for us, the onboarding is phase 1, cleanup and setup is phase 2, and then ongoing monthly or quarterly support is phase 3. There is room for their pricing to decrease and or decrease or increase due to, if we discover a lot of things that were not a part of their original pricing, then we will update their pricing, by the end of their onboarding process before we allow their account to move on to the setup and cleanup process. During that 2 weeks, while the client is, working on getting all the items together that they need to get you, we also communicate with our entire team. So our COO, our cleanup specialist, even the ongoing support specialist that's going to get this account, maybe a month later after the cleanup specialist is done. We can communicate with everyone and make sure we're all on the same page. The onboarding specialist communicates any developments within the account, so any changes that weren't originally a part of the account, basically. So any additions or subtractions, any accounts that they forgot about, that seems to happen, more frequently than you think it would. Before we enter phase 2, the setup and cleanup process, we do charge them upfront, whatever that amount is. So if it's $5,000 for their setup and cleanup, 12-month cleanup or whatever it is, we make sure to charge that amount before their account enters that phase. So we're 100% done with the onboarding process. We've already charged the onboarding fee, so we're good. Now we're going to charge that upfront setup and cleanup fee prior to entering that process. Or if we've continuously followed up every couple of days with the client, and the client has been unresponsive, and they haven't had any sort of like family emergency, business emergency, anything that would really prevent them from prioritizing this, then we may drop them at that point and not carry them on as a client. Or we may extend the onboarding process a few days or maybe even a week, depending on what their specific circumstances are. But that is why we charge for the onboarding, for our time, right, upfront prior to the onboarding beginning. And then that's why we do not charge for the setup and cleanup, the next phase, until the onboarding is 100% complete and we're 100% confident that they're at the right price point and we're going to take them forward. So it kind of prevents having to give any refunds or any unnecessary friction. It really streamlines the client experience when you do it that way. So I would recommend charging an onboarding fee upfront. Take that for your time. Do the 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, whatever it is, long onboarding process that you're comfortable with. And then if everything goes according to plan, you guys have a good working relationship, then charge them for the next phase in your process and move them forward as a client. Or at that point, disengage if you need to disengage. So it's a great way to hold us accountable and also hold the client accountable for both of our parts of this deal. So hopefully you have kind of an overview of what an onboarding process could be. I didn't go line by line just because your process is going to be way different than our process, depending on what technology you use and also the specific clients that you're serving as well. But hopefully this is helpful.